It was supposed to be a routine traffic stop. A black man behind the wheel.com, cooperative and completely unsuspecting. The young white officer, still fresh on the force, thought he was just doing his job. Maybe a missing taillight, maybe speeding. But as he stepped up to the driver's side window, something unexpected happened. The man looked him straight in the eye, gave a small smile, and said just one sentence that stopped the officer cold. Asterisk, I'm your new police chief. Asterisk. For a split second, everything went silent. You could feel the tension in the air. This wasn't the kind of situation they trained for in the academy. It wasn't just about a uniform or a badge, it was about power, perception, and a moment that challenged both who really held the authority. And what happens when the person you think you're profiling turns out to be the one in charge? In a time where race, law enforcement, and leadership often clash in the headlines, this real-life encounter says more than words ever could. It's a story of assumptions, surprise, and the deeper truths hiding beneath the surface. But what did the officer do next? Did he apologize, stand frozen, or try to cover it up? And how did the new police chief handle this unexpected test on his first day? Stay tuned, because what happens next changes more than just one shift on the job. It sparks a conversation the whole town couldn't ignore. The silence between them stretched longer than it should have. The young officer, Officer Daniels, blinked a few times, unsure if he'd heard right. Excuse me, son, he asked, his voice slightly unsteady. The man behind the wheel calmly pulled out his ID and badge, sliding them over. Jeremiah Carter, newly appointed chief of police. I start today. Officer Daniels looked down, then back up, his heart now racing faster than during any high-speed pursuit. This wasn't just awkward, that was a moment he knew could follow him forever. Chief Carter, dressed in plain clothes and driving his own vehicle, had purposely avoided any official escort that morning. He wanted to see his city through everyday eyes. But what he hadn't expected was to be pulled over less than 5 blocks from the precinct, just for existing in the wrong car, in the wrong part of town. Word hadn't spread yet about his appointment. Many in the department didn't know what to expect from him. A black police chief wasn't unheard of, but in this small, conservative town, it stirred quiet whispers and louder doubts. Some said change was overdue. Others didn't want change at all. And now, before even stepping foot into his new office, Chief Carter was already face to face with the exact problem he hoped to tackle: prejudgment within the ranks. But was this stop a case of racial profiling, or an honest mistake? That line was about to get tested, and everyone in the department would feel its impact. Chief Carter didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His calm presence said everything. You pulled me over, he said evenly, but you couldn't tell me why. Officer Daniels shifted his weight nervously, trying to find the right words. Just a routine check, sir. I thought the plates looked unfamiliar, and you didn't signal back there. But even as he spoke, he knew it sounded thin. His training kicked in, but his confidence wavered. This wasn't just any driver, this was the man set to lead them all. Inside the station, word traveled fast. By the time Chief Carter arrived for his formal introduction, murmurs were already bouncing off locker room walls. Some officers looked at him with respect. Others kept their eyes low. A few exchanged quiet glances, wondering if today's incident would be brushed aside or brought into the light. The department had its share of tension over the years, but nothing like this. Now, the question wasn't just about leadership, it was about accountability. Meanwhile, the community, news of a black police chief was already stirring conversation. Some residents felt hope for real reform. Others feared it was just another headline without action. And then there were those watching closely: local activists, city officials, even retired officers waiting to see how Carter would handle his first real test at home. Officer Daniels replayed the moment over and over. Did he react out of instinct, or out of bias he didn't want to admit? The answer wasn't clear, but someone would be demanding it soon. By the end of the week, the air inside the precinct felt heavier than usual. Chief Carter hadn't mentioned the traffic stop in any official meeting, but the silence only made the tension grow. Every officer knew it had happened, and no one knew what Carter was planning. Was he letting it go, or was he just waiting to see who would step up and take responsibility? Officer Daniels tried to keep his head down, but guilt clung to him. He hadn't slept right since that morning. He kept running over the stop in his mind, the way he'd made the decision in seconds, based more on instinct than evidence. And now, every time he saw the chief walk by, composed and unreadable, it felt like a quiet storm was building. Meanwhile, Chief Carter was gathering more than just impressions. He sat in on patrol briefings, reviewed body cam footage, and spoke one-on-one with several officers and community leaders. He wasn't just observing, he was listening, and people noticed. Rumors started to spread that he was preparing a department-wide address. Some officers worried it would turn into a public call-out. Others hoped it would finally break the silence choking the building. In the community, local reporters caught wind of the story. One anonymous tip had already reached the newsroom, hinting that the new chief had been racially profiled on his first day. The city buzzed with speculation, and as the pressure mounted from all sides, one thing became clear: whatever Carter was planning, it was coming soon. and no one was ready for it, just as the department braced for whatever the chief might reveal. Another shock hit. An anonymous internal memo leaked. It accused more than one officer, not just Daniels, of quietly targeting drivers based on race. The memo didn't name names, but it detailed patterns: unjustified stops, missing reports, unfiled footage. It pointed to a culture of silence that had gone unchecked for years. And now, with a black police chief at the helm, that silence was cracking. Chief Carter didn't deny the memo's existence when asked by a city council member during a closed-door meeting. Instead, he handed over a thick folder of records he'd been compiling since the day of the stop. Dates, logs, names. It wasn't just a response. It was a map of the problem, built from inside the house. The mayor, caught between growing media pressure and his own re-election campaign, urged Carter to hold off on any department-wide action. But Carter had already made up his mind. The precinct, paranoia took root. Officers whispered in hallways, friendships grew tense. Some feared they'd be exposed, others angry that it had taken a new chief to finally call things out. And then came the notice. Mandatory meeting. Full. Staff, no exceptions. Monday morning. Officer Daniels sat alone in his car that night, watching the rain hit his windshield, dreading what would come next. What started as a routine traffic stop had now pulled the entire department into a storm. But no one, not even Daniels, was ready for what Chief Carter planned to say in that room. The precinct's briefing room was packed Monday morning. Officers filled every seat, some standing in the back, others leaning against the walls. The silence was thick, broken only by the occasional cough or shuffle of boots. Chief Carter walked in without a word, placed a folder on the podium, and scanned the room. His calm gaze landed on no one in particular, and yet everyone felt it. "I wasn't going to speak about what happened on my first day," he began, voice steady. "But silence hasn't helped this department in the past, and it won't now." He opened the folder and began to read, not just about his own traffic stop, but about years of unchecked patterns. Unfiled stops, lost footage, community complaints that never reached review. Each page hit like a drumbeat. Daniels sat frozen, knowing what was coming. But then Carter looked up and said something no one expected. "I'm not here to fire anyone today." A wave of confusion swept the room. "I'm here to invite you to help fix this. I've set up a task force, officers and citizens together. Transparency, accountability, retraining. But here's the twist. Participation is voluntary. If you refuse, your record gets audited. If you join, your voice helps shape this department." Murmurs rippled across the room. No threats, no yelling, just a choice. And then Carter paused, locking eyes with Daniels. "Some of you made mistakes. I know that. But you can either hide from change or be part of it." The room sat stunned. No one had seen it coming. The days that followed brought a quiet shift to the department. Some officers left the meeting that morning with folded arms and guarded eyes. But others, including Daniels, stayed behind. He approached Chief Carter not with excuses, but with honesty. "I didn't mean to judge you that day," he said quietly, "but I did, and I want to do better." Carter didn't respond right. Awad just nodded, then extended his hand. That was the start. The task force quickly took shape. Officers sat across from community members, listening, not defending. Old stories surfaced, some painful, some long buried, but the conversations opened space that hadn't existed before. Daniels joined the task force, not because he had to, but because he felt he should. Over time, he started mentoring younger officers, reminding them that instinct isn't always right, and that respect should never be conditional. Outside the station, the city began to feel the difference. Fewer complaints, more transparency. Body cam footage was